Do I trust that person? Can I really trust that entrepreneur? Can I work with them? Can I have a good relationship with them? And finally, do I really want? Am I capable of making that business relationship with them or not? Fundraising is a key milestone for any venture-backed company. And it's important because it helps you at multiple fronts. First, it will help you to enrich your product so that you can serve advanced customers. It will also help you build key business areas to reach the product market fit really quickly. And finally, it will also help you to build a company, build a real business, so that you hire marketing and sales and customer success, so that you take your business from one stage to another, and as I said, start serving advanced customers, charging more, and of course, increasing overall value of your company. Now, before I dig into the steps, there are a few key items that you need to understand about the fundraising process. First, the fundraising process is a continuous process, and it starts way before you need the money. And we're going to talk about how you build relationship with VCs and how you get throughout that process. And second, it's not actually about the money. It's about building relationships and bringing partners to you in that journey. And finally, it's worth mentioning here that fundraising is a sales process. You're going to talk to a lot of VCs. Many of them are going to tell you no, or maybe give you no answer at all. So you have to go through that exercise no matter what. But in between, you will find really valuable relationships, and you're going to have, hopefully, good partners to join you in that journey. Now, before you get into the fundraising process, there are a few key questions that you need to ask yourself. Number one, why do you need the money? Unfortunately, some of the first-time entrepreneurs think of fundraising as a way to validate that their idea is a good idea. And as a result, they raise too early or raise from wrong partners. And second, what are you going to do with the money? And again, a common mistake that many entrepreneurs use the money to just get started building the product and get started, validating the idea, which is also a misconception. You should raise the money to scale your business, not only to validate. Unless you're working in a space that requires an expensive and a lengthy product development, then you might need an external money. And third, what are you actually going to do when you raise the money? A lot of entrepreneurs, they would have a vague idea about what exactly the money is going to be used for, but they do not have a concrete plan where the money is going to be allocated. And finally, and this is really important, what if you try to raise money and you're not able actually to get the money that you wanted? Are you going to give up? Are you going to find an alternative way to fundraise, or maybe an alternative way to keep developing your product and bootstrapping your company from your own pocket until you reach the milestone that VCs are looking for, and also healthy for your startup and for you as an entrepreneur to raise money at that stage? Now, there are a few key mistakes that many entrepreneurs do when it comes to fundraising, and worth mentioning here because it's important for you to avoid these as you go through the process. First, prioritizing cash over building relationships. VCs are not going to give you the money and run away. VCs are after being your partners. And actually, this is what you also should be looking for when you are fundraising. You're looking for partners who are actively going to help you improving the business and growing it with you. And second, thinking that all the cash is the same. You can take cash from anyone who just wants to give you money. This is also wrong. You should look for smart cash. And smart cash means that the money that is gonna come to you along with other things that are going to help you in your business. And worth mentioning actually a story from my own experience. I raised from one of the famous accelerators in the Bay Area. And when I raised this money, I thought it's not gonna make a big difference. But it turns out that this money was one of the most effective cash that I got on my cap table. I learned how to write my go-to-market from them. I got a lot of training about marketing, sales, and business development, and they taught us the fast experimentation to reach the product market fit really quickly. So cash is not equal from different VCs. Look after the smart cash. And the last one is screw up introductions. And they think that if I'm not able to fundraise from that VC right now, then there's no need to really spend time and effort with that VC. That's also wrong. As I said, you're after building relationships. If you're an entrepreneur once, you're going to be probably an entrepreneur for the rest of your life. Maybe that VC is not a good fit for that startup that you're having right now, but they might be for the next startup, or they might bring a customer to you, or they might bring other resources, or maybe they are going to introduce you to another VC that is going to fund you. There are lots of possibilities that can come from a good, respectful relationship. Look after that. It's your reputation in the market. Protect it by all means by being respectful to everyone. So here's the 5-step process that you should follow to effectively fundraise for your startup. So first of all, identify the VCs that you would like to have them as your partners. And second, get introductions to those VCs. And it's a big step. We're going to talk about it in depth. And third, have your first meeting with those VCs. And this is really important, even if you're not fundraising. And fourth, start providing them regular updates. Tell them what is going on in your business before you actually fundraise. And the fifth step is to do the actual fundraising and now ask them to jump into that adventure and become part of your journey. So let's dig in. Now, the first step of your fundraising for your startup is to identify the right fit VCs or venture capitalists. And VC's fit is based on two main factors. The first one is the business. Are they going to be good partners for your business? And the second one, and many underestimate that, are they good fit for you personally? Are you going to have the chemistry and the compatibility with that partner that you're going to work with or not? So let's start with the business compatibility. When it comes to VCs, usually you should start with a big list of VCs who are in your area and start filtering out that list. So the filtering out could be by the geography. Do you prefer your VCs to be close to you or not? And by the way, this is really important because you want them to be close. Go meet them in person, have a handshake, build a trust. Do they fund startups at your stage? Whether you're seed or A or B, it's important to also know whether that VC is funding actually your stage of the startup. Don't go to a late stage while you're still early on and try to fundraise from them. It's good to connect, but practically they're not going to be useful for you. Do they usually lead any of the funding rounds? Do they work with other VCs and prefer to have other VCs on the cap table of certain type or not? Do they have any kind of a vertical focus if that matches your startup? All those are business factors that you need to combine together, use them in your criteria. I used to have a big Excel sheet and I used to give a score to each VC based on that criteria. And some others could be related to are they already funding a competing company or not? Do they have expertise in this area or not? These are all factors that you should use to give a score to each VC and identify whether this VC is a good fit or not. I used to give them A, B, C, and D, and F means that they're not qualified. A means they are the best fit for us based on those factors that I considered to get a partner for me. And by the way, I've included in the description of this video a link to a list of more than 1,200 VCs worldwide that you can connect with, and you can create your Excel sheet off and start building your own list and giving them scores. Check out the link. Now we come to the second part when it comes to identifying the best fit VCs for your fundraising, which is the personal compatibility and the chemistry between you and the partner. Now, when you fundraise from a company, but there is going to be a certain partner who is going to work with you and will be on your board and will ask you for updates and help you out throughout the journey. So it's important to find that common ground, to communicate with them and feel that they are going to listen to you. They're going to be supportive as a person. And I actually had to turn down a couple of VCs in my journey because I did not feel that trust relationship. And probably also happened with me. Probably others did not decide to work with me because they did not feel that we can work together. There is no harmony in how we communicate and how we view the business and how we run the business. It's hard to give you, frankly, a specific list, but a few key questions that you can consider there. Number one, can I trust that person? Do you think that you can have a good relationship that when you say something or he says something, you're now 100% confident that he or she going to execute on? And second, do they actually trust me? Do you feel that they trust and they're willing to give you the space to try things and experiment and make mistakes and learn and come back to them with what you learned, or they're basically going to micromanage you and they're going to reduce your abilities to learn and experiment with new stuff. And third, are they going to be available for you or not? Or you're just a blip in their Excel sheet. You're just a small number. They're going to be super busy because they're still building their fund, or they are working with much bigger companies, etc. This is a key to your relationship with that specific partner. Now, the second step in fundraising from venture capitalists for your startup is to get introduced. And I put this in its own step because it's a critical step. VCs meet a lot of entrepreneurs every day, and it's important for you to be introduced to them in a good context through one of your connections. And you will be surprised that probably many VCs are just one connection away from you. So it's important to take a look at your friends or people you know professionally and see if they're connected with one or more partners in the companies that you identified in the first step as a good fit for you. Now, this step by itself has its own art, and you need to do it properly. And you want your friend or your connection get excited about your idea and get excited introducing you to that VC. And I would recommend to do 3 small steps to get them excited about your idea and get them excited about introducing you also to the VC. So number 1, try to have a meeting with them. Just have lunch, have coffee. Give them an overview about what you're trying to do. Connect generally with them and tell them that you're trying to do something new and you need their support. Introduce the idea, get their inputs about it. And then second, ask them for an introduction for that specific VC or partner that they know, and tell them that you are not necessarily fundraising right now. You're connecting with that person because you feel that you want to get your idea out there and get some feedback. And third, make it easy for them to introduce you to their connection. Send them the template email. Send them everything that they need to do and include in their communication with the VC. If you follow those 3 steps, it's going to be easy for you and for them to know that VC and connect very quickly and very effectively. And now you need to really capitalize on that introduction and make everyone feel good out of that connection. Now you're adding value to the person who is introducing you and also to the VC that you're about to meet. So, best practices that you should follow. Whenever you get introduced, follow up immediately. Do not let more than 24 hours pass by before you respond back. And second, make it short. Make your overview about your company, or if you want to connect with that VC, really, really short and just intriguing one way or another. Make them really want to meet you. And finally, of course, follow that person's schedule. Follow the VC's schedule and make sure that you are making it also easy and convenient for the VC to come and meet you. Now, the third step of fundraising from VCs is to have that first meeting with the VC. And as I said before, it's a continuous process. You need to be always connecting with VCs. Even if you do not need the money, even if you're 100% sure that you do not need the money, you still need to connect with them and have that meeting. And the VCs usually, when they meet someone, they have 3 key questions in their mind. The first question is, do I trust that person? Can I really trust that entrepreneur? And the second one, can I work with them? Can I have a good relationship with them? And finally, do I really want? Am I capable of making that business relationship with them or not? And by the way, VCs also get anxious and they are making a bet on you. You want to make it easy for them to make a decision and answer those questions in their heads. That's why it's important to meet them in person. That's why it's important to go and shake hands and let them know about you as a person, why you're building a startup, why now for you, what are your dreams, what are your ambitions. So there's a minor homework that you need to do before meeting them. You need to know that person more. So you need to know, what do they like? What's their professional experience? Are they technical or non-technical? That will basically set the tone of your first meeting. Do they sit on the board of other startups? Any personal preferences? All these are important to connect again with that person at the personal level. You're not a robot. You're not, again, just a salesman trying to sell a product and do a transaction. You're after building a relationship. So now you're going to meet them. And you need to demonstrate a few key points. So number 1, You want to, of course, demonstrate very clearly it's not about money. It's about building relationships. Second, you need to demonstrate confidence, that you're confident about yourself and your abilities to build a business, build a company, and also bring in partners. And third, put them at ease. As I said, they are gambling. They're making a bet on you and they do not yet know much about you and about your business. So make it easy for them to know you personally. And fourth, make it about them as well. It's not about you just spitting out your startup idea and just talking about yourself. Ask them questions. Make it interactive. Ask them about their first startup. Ask them about what really excites them about the company. And fifth, ask them questions about your idea. Make them feel that they also own it with you, that they're contributing to the idea. Ask them about, what do you think about this idea? What do you think should be my milestone? What do you think of my business go-to-market strategy? Some VCs, feel anxious when you ask them those questions. Now at that point, the VC took a snapshot of you and your startup. And probably you're not going to ask them for money at this point. But what they're going to do, they're going to start following up with you, and we're going to talk about this over time and see what kind of progress you're making. But this is the baseline. This is the starting point where you interacted with them. So when you're done, I need you to do two things. Number one, send them, of course, a thank you email and send them a copy of your deck if you have one. And by the way, in that first meeting, you should make it interactive. Try not to really have a formal presentation unless you're asked to. Make sure that you are, close and just do it in a friendly way. And the second thing, ask them if you can add them to your mailing list so that you can send them updates. And we're going to talk about that in the next step. And by the way, I included also in the description a link to template emails that you can use in your introduction and you can use it in your communication with VCs. Check out the link below and you're going to find some really good templates that you can use in that process. Now, the fourth step in fundraising for your startup from VCs is where most of the work actually is happening for your fundraising. And in that step, you need to back again focus on building your startup, building your product, and providing regular updates to your VCs. As I mentioned in the earlier step, the VC in that first meeting took a snapshot of you and your startup. And now they want to see how fast you can move and how wise you are in building your own company. You need to provide them regular updates. And the easiest way to do this is by adding them to your mailing list. And this is also a smart thing that many experienced entrepreneurs would do. They would build a mailing list that has all the VCs that they talked with, advisors, also possible employees, key employees. They add them to the list and they provide regular updates. And I recommend to provide those updates on a monthly basis, unless you're still part-time and maybe there isn't that, many events taking place on a monthly basis. So you might just make it quarterly. But if you do it, sporadically, more than that, you might lose their interest and they may just forget about you. Now, sending regular updates to your VCs prior to actually fundraising is key to the success of the process at the end. And it will keep you on top of mind, and also it's going to give you a chance to ask for feedback and for them, again, to be engaged with you and your idea. And VCs are typically interested in the following key items about your business that I recommend to include. And by the way, before I talk about them, I've included in the link of this video sample newsletter that you can use to send it to your VCs. So the first one, major product updates. Provide any product updates that would significantly change the perception about your product and about your company. Are you now, for example, public beta? Is there a major feature that's going to open up a new business or a new segment for your product? And second, major business-related updates like, did you incorporate recently? Did you file for a patent? Did you fundraise, maybe from angel investors, and so on? And of course, you need to talk about your customers. Customers are key to that whole process. VCs love to see you making sales and adding customers to your customer base as you progress throughout building the product and the business. And finally, you're hiring. Are you hiring key employees? Did you hire a CTO? Or maybe you did not have a co-founder and finally you found that co-founder that would make them excited about your company and about funding you in the next stage. Now, before moving to the next step, which is actually fundraising, you can meet your VCs in person. And actually, it's desirable to meet them if they have the time. Some of the VCs would say, well, maybe meet again when you're actually fundraising. But if you could, I would recommend to still meet them. And it's going to help you when you actually fundraise, when you give them a rough idea about what to expect when you start the fundraising. So you need to tell them roughly what's your timeline. When do you plan to fundraise? What milestone are you looking for before you start the fundraising? Are you looking for a certain revenue or a certain validation with the product before you fundraise? And also give them an idea. What are you going to do with the money? Just a very high level idea. You can sit with the VC and tell them, for example, I'm thinking of raising somewhere between $3 and $5 million. I would like to hire more engineers, and now it's time to invest in marketing and sales because I have the first few customers, and now I understand how the sales process is moving, and I would like to scale it. So that will make sure that when you fundraise, it's not a surprise for you and for them. And also, that will give them a chance to give you feedback, by the way, about whether you selected the right milestone, whether the money that you are planning to raise is the right amount of money or not, and whether you're actually making a good progress that would make you a good case for them to give you the money when you need it. All right, that's now the final step. Step number 5 in your fundraising for your startup from VCs or venture capitalists, which is actually inviting them to join you into that journey. And as I mentioned, the last step, you should have a criteria in your mind. What kind of, for example, revenue or product validation or product engineering that you wanted to reach before you do the fundraising. When you are certain that you are about to reach that process, it's time to actually start investing VCs. And I would recommend to follow that 4-step process to close on that final big step in closing your funds. So the first step is to update your pitch deck. And in that deck, you need to make sure that you have a clear ask, how much money you want, what are you going to do with the money, and what kind of milestone that you want to reach with this money. And by the way, VCs at that particular stage, when they want to fund you, if they agree, they want to do what is called due diligence. And due diligence is the process to make sure that you are in a good shape as a company and as an entrepreneur to take their money. So they're going to check whether you're incorporated properly or not, you have the proper cap table or not. All the legal stuff is clean and properly done. They need to protect themselves against any possible bad moves or legal debt that you need to resolve at that particular point, and that requires from you to prepare what's so-called a data room. And your attorney or lawyer should help you with that, and I will talk about this in a different video. Now, the second step is to set a date, a time window. When do you need this fund to be in your bank account so that you start working on that milestone? And I would usually recommend to pick a 90 days window. This is from the start of the actual fundraising all the way to having everyone agreeing roughly and having the money. Now, this, of course, in an ideal world, in many cases, it takes longer than that, which is fine. This is okay, but try to close within this time window. Now, the third step, don't blast all the VCs that you have in your list and tell them, I will fundraise now and I'm gonna do this and this. Start talking with the VCs that are more likely to fund you than others and start to talk them one-on-one. I'm about to fundraise. Are you willing to be in? Are you going to lead or maybe co-lead? And try to secure a certain percentage of your target money that you wanted to raise. Maybe 20%, 40%. The higher the number, the better. Once you reach the 50%, a lot of the other VCs will be interested to be in. When you secure that, now you're in a much stronger position. You can go to the rest of your VCs, the ones that you're in your list and you've been, warming them up and keeping them ready to fund you. When you tell them, hey, I have already 50% of my round, probably creating the FOMO effect, the fear of missing out. And those other VCs are more likely also to chime in with their money and become part of your journey. Now, the last step here is to schedule as many meetings as possible within a very short period of time. No one is going to fund you just with an email. You still need to go to them, pitch the whole idea to them. They have their own internal processes to take your pitch deck, present it to others, and probably they're going to ask you for another meeting to ask you questions and maybe represent your idea again. So be ready for that. That's why it may take sometimes more than 90 days. Now, I want to leave you with 3 key points. It may look like a tedious process and a long process, but when you go through it more than once, it's going to be a second nature. And this is the fun of being an entrepreneur. You're basically going to know a lot of people and you're going to go through a lot of situations. Not all of them are favorable or good ones, but as I said, it's not about cash. It's about building relationships and bringing partners into your journey. And second, it's a sales process, pretty much like what you would do when you sell a product. You're going to talk to 10 possible customers and maybe 1 or 2 of them are going to tell you yes. With the VCs, your product is your company and your vision. And probably you're going to talk to dozens of VCs before you get one yes. So have this in mind and do not get discouraged if you get many no's, but also listen to the feedback and adjust. And finally, and this is really key, please do not follow the money. Follow your vision, building relationships. They are going to invest in your vision. They're not necessarily going to invest only in your business. When you follow your vision and your passion, money will follow. And great relationships, which is way more important than anything else, will also be a great product of that whole process. So best of luck in your fundraising. And I look forward actually to connecting with you and hearing from you how you have been doing your fundraising.